Nicolene is still with our team also, because it's our second day of PD, professional development. So
yeah.
it's all a bit condensed with timing, and all of the new families, old families come back tomorrow, and so we're kind of splitting ourselves. It sounds like the same there.
Yeah. We didn't want to delay, so we just thought, let's just figure it out.
Well, that's the thing though with time, isn't it? If you don't actually carve that out, you don't actually get to it. So
yeah,
that's what, my message is, with the intention of saying, okay, well, you guys are having the week off coming ahead, yeah?
yes.
Yeah.
Well, actually, so it's a public holiday here tomorrow,
right?
And my daughter, she recently moved to Mozambique to go and study. She's doing a scuba diving sort of like internship thing there.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm taking the opportunity to taking off school Thursday, Friday, so that we could have the time to go see her. And then Tess leaves on Saturday with our kids to go on a school camp to the Drakensberg.
Oh, I went to the Drakensberg. But when we went there, it was pouring with rain, and we didn't go to the mountains because we had no gear. And
no.
I vowed that I would go back. And rain, hail, or time, I would go into the Drakensberg. But
it is so beautiful. In fact, I've actually walked in there barefoot, also through rain. Just take off your shoes because they're slushy anyway, and walk barefoot through the rivers, and like as long as you can, because obviously our feet aren't so strong,
Yeah.
But it's a magnificent place to go. It's really beautiful.
Wow. And how many are going along?
Sorry?
How many children are going along? Are there kids going along?
Yeah, it's a small group. There's around eight students and Tess and another mom. Yeah, they're going.
Yeah, right. And how long has it been since you've seen your daughter from Mozambique?
In Mozambique?
Yeah.
Not actually that long. So she's actually just 18. She turned 18 in June, so she's quite young to be on her own there. But so she left on the 1st of July. And now this will be the first time I'm seeing her since we dropped her off. So we dropped her off, and so it's only been just over a month.
Okay.
But in Mozambique, so beautiful. The opportunity to go there as well as see her.
Yeah.
Kind of let it pass.
Right. Yeah. Wow. I can see Tess is joining.
Okay, cool. So she'll probably be a bit flustered. She's. Yeah, we've had a rough week. We've got two parents that are in the middle of a very ugly divorce, and the mom's been dragging us into the middle of it. And I don't know if we told you, but we don't have our registration yet because the property, you have to own the property to have the consent use. Okay. So she's trying to use that against us now in the divorce.
Oh wow!
So it's a stressful time, but I don't know, for some reason we both still have felt quite held within the stressful times. I think, I keep saying to Tess also, I do believe that this thing that we're doing is more so the universe's desire. So if something's born in the soul of the universe, well, then the universe will support it, right? And these things are being done for us, not to us. So just follow the flow and see where it goes.
How do you see? Well, hi Tess. You're just on mute.
There we go. Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Sorry, that took me a while. Wrong microphones.
Problem solving as you go.
So I'm in a beautiful park today. We go.
Oh.
/ golf course.
Wow. So how do you see that, Kerry, when you say it's being used against you? What do you mean by that?
So she basically has said that, like sending us emails saying that if we let the children back into our school, that she will take us to the department and report us. And he sent us a lawyer's letter saying if we don't let the children back into school, he's the custodian. He's actually their guardian. He's been given legal custody of them while they're trying to sort out the battle. So the decision lies in his hands, not hers. And that if we don't take them back, they could, if he doesn't find another school, they could end up failing the year because there's so many months left of the year, and it's within their best interest that we take the kids back. And so, yeah, we've just taken them back and put our faith out there that everything will work out as it should.
Okay. How do you feel about that?
Nothing like something like this to light a fire under under you to get your admin in order. So, yeah.
Well, there's something in that, isn't there? There's something in
Kerry and I often see these things as, okay, well, maybe this was the push we needed. But it is very stressful. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I woke up at 4 this morning and wrote a list of all the things I needed to do still.
Okay.
We've both been having like midnight, revelations. Maybe we should be doing this too. Maybe we should be doing that too. Covering what else should we do?
Yeah, because there's that pre-emergence of fear, isn't there? Of the compromise of everything when the flames come near.
And your quote on Friday, I think it was Friday that you posted it, was just so apt. Came at exactly the right time.
Well, that's from something called the Calendar of the Soul.
Oh, wow.
Some indications from someone, Rudolf Steiner, many, many moons ago, that there's 44 different, I think, affirmations and various layers of what that is. So I look at that periodically because it helps me make sense of some things. Now, it doesn't tell me what to do, but there is some sort of, if you want to call it, some sort of universal occurrences that happen sometimes. And then when we're really involved with the spirit of people through education, and we're really involved with human nature that plays out through the spirit, it takes us to all of these places, because you can actually see through what these legal things are. You see through it because you're in the middle of it. And when you're in the middle of something, you are either a reflector, you reflect that back, or you kind of allow that to flow through and you project that forward. And you can also transform what that is for you. And you represent not only you represent all of those children and families that come to Akasha that have no idea of what's happening. They have no idea of what that dynamic is.
No.
Yeah.
And if they knew, they would have this firm conviction of support and of what can I do? But knowing that you hold that space, you can't open that because it's not yours to open. It's this space in between where the human nature between two individuals out of a real, a real deep emotional space becomes a lot of grounds to vomit upon. And then you're like, a minute, it's like, whoa, that's not a pleasant sight. We've all experienced people who have vomited in front of us, and it makes us want to vomit too. So there's something about that purging way of things, of looking at that and saying, okay, well, I'm up at these ungodly hours, and I'm up at 4:00, and I'm starting to see all the areas more critically that have always been there, and now they're right up here. Okay, and now I can categorically together look through what I need to do right now. What is the most pressing side of things, to not live into that fear, but to transform that into, okay, this is also showing us the way. It's showing us how we need to be more united or more articulate, or the governance side of things or the admin side of things need to have a particular substance and process to them, so that when this comes again, I can meet it with a boundary rather than it coming right through us. So when you see these things and the real polarity of it, you see, okay, this is the work. This is the work when we work at this. So,
and what's been interesting is that, I mean, our parents, even without knowing the situation, have also, without question, for us to join this Pestalozzi Trust, which is, you know, they're basically, did Kerry explain to you, they're a group of lawyers who protect sort of that in between, protecting homeschoolers, cottage schools. And so it is quite amazing that not one parent said, what is this and why do I have to sign it? And actually everyone just kind of was like, yeah, sure, here we go.
Yeah, wow.
So, yeah.
That's beautiful then. I mean, that's almost the ultimate trust, isn't it? And I don't need to see the dotted lines and so on. There's an underlying faith which is built upon trust, and that's a really, really beautiful reflection of the greater community, the greater collective consciousness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if there's any fear on their side either, but whatever it is, that went quite smoothly. So,
well, we can I think quite rightfully presume that people care more about their own lives than other lives. Let's just put it as brutally as that, right? Because people have a lot to deal with, and being a teacher or a school, it's almost like this is the big purging that happens in schools and places that we open up that do operate differently. It's a different vibration good. I know that my child is taken care of in a place with caring, thinking, feeling human beings. So I have time to deal with my own problems over here. I can sort my life out here. It's one part of my life, and perhaps the most significant part of my life, my child, that I know that they're in this environment. So I can deal with my stuff. And I mean, that's an evolutionary process of community building and so on, but it's also a tribute to be like, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, I mean, you may have listed some things down in between our previous calls.
So I didn't know whether I could share, if I could share the mind map I put together. I actually decided not to use Miro because actually I didn't find it as creative enough. So I found something called Mindomo that I downloaded. But yeah, if I could share. Okay. Oh, it says that you just need to enable sharing. And I need to check that it's open.
Okay. 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 Does that work now?
I'm just going to quickly go there. Yeah. Okay. So.
Oh, what's this called?
I know. This is called Mindomo, Mindomo, and it connects straight into. The problem is I can only do 3 on the free one, but it is really fun and easy to use, and they've got great templates. So what I liked about this one was that actually I can connect any of these things to each other. So I can make any connections I want, which is quite fun. So this over here was our questions. Yeah, a lot of it isn't filled out. So like, for example, I've just put in the primary school, what's working, what's challenging, but the teachers, I haven't had a chance to speak, we haven't had a chance to speak to the teachers to ask them to sort of populate this. But I thought if we broke it down into what's working and what's not, and then I've got challenges, everything from, legal to staff to communication, finances. These are parent challenges. This one I haven't also fleshed out, like this whole connection between teachers and students and parents, but they're all connected. And then here is what we're curious about. So I'm just going to make that bigger.
Okay.
So, yeah. So these are just some of the questions we had.
Before we go there, how does it feel putting all this down?
Actually, for me, I love doing stuff like this. So it was actually great because it means I love seeing this bigger picture and zooming out and being able to zoom in again. And so it did open up ideas as I was going. And there were a lot of changes that happened as I did it. And so it'll be interesting to see once we flesh it out how what it ends up looking like.
Yeah. And what about you, Kerry?
I actually found it quite overwhelming, like looking at this. Yeah, I kind of felt like I wanted to just find, like, knowing the time limitations. This is fantastic.
Yes.
And it's got its place,
Yes.
definitely 100%. But I kind of like thinking I wanted to just find two of the most important questions, and then knowing how much we all talk, sort of try and focus on that, you know.
Yep.
But Tess is always that big picture thinker. She thrives on seeing this, like says, you know, she loves this.
Yeah, you know, I had someone come here today. Her name was Michelle. I taught her daughter in Australia 10 years ago. Her daughter Kaya was 9 years old, and now she's 19.
Wow.
And mother came, and I haven't spoken to her a long time. She's been calling and calling and calling. I've never been to Bali. I want to come. And I said, good, come, and then I'll sort some things out. So I sorted some things out for her, and she came to the learning center today. And it was really such a beautiful time shared together that, you know, it's those moments where, you know, in an hour you can experience a lifetime, and in a look you can experience a complete shift. And, you know, she was talking about the authentic self. And she kept on doing this, you know, one part of me is like this and the other part of me is like that. And one part of me feels like this and the other part of me feels like this. And this happens like this here, and then this happens like this here. And I was like, it's so, so amazing. But I'd really like to understand from you, Michelle, what part are you talking about? Because I can only see one of you. And I said, I'm really curious about what can be called the authentic shadow. What if we become curious about that? I mean, because we talk in this duality. I feel this part of me, or I feel that part of me. And this is the real beauty of, I know, the relationship that I have with Nicolene is this duality. We can be in both worlds at the same time, yet through one another, we can see a different version of the world. And when you meet in the middle, and this is all through biological, neurological processes too, when you hold that space in the middle, something magical emerges. And when you have someone like yourself, Tess, that does this and sees all of that, and that really gets me excited too. And then someone like yourself, Kerry, was, come on, let's bring it down to this. That's a wonderful duality. So there's somewhere in the middle where we meet one another. And this is where it does become, in my experience, in my opinion, and my experience, my feeling, is it becomes a transformational process through the work. It's not separate, it's through the work, because I can experience a different blueprint of the world. I can experience a different blueprint of the world and a different imprint at the same time. And then I can build structures, non-physical structures. I can build processes upon that imprint, that blueprint, that then other people can move through or move along. So I can action my team in the manner which is of least resistance and of utmost simplicity. And until we flesh that out, until we go there, our people will flounder and they will go off their own imprints, blueprints, frameworks. And it will say to us, within the system, we will say, something doesn't feel right. Why is there this? Why isn't it happening the way I know it can? And then if we don't temper that, we end up projecting that onto the whole system, onto our people and processes and so on. So this is such a beautiful process to enter into in full, as much awareness as we can, and say, here's the magic middle that we're going into. We're looking at big picture. We're bringing it down to questions. Questions will be generative by nature, and we can then systematically go through things according to what is happening in time and space, as well as go all the way there to next year, go all the way there into the future, and come rolling back. So I love this. This is really, really cool. I don't know how you want to tackle this. I'm guided by you, but I can very quickly talk about all of these things.
The one one of my ones that I really wanted to know from you guys is what your day, what general day of yours looks like. I was just really curious about finding out how your what does an average day in open flow actually look like?
It doesn't look average. What is an average day? Okay. So average day. You know, we are just planning now, and an average day, like we let the team go through this process of like, okay, here's some framework, and now you go and do, and then we'll come back and we'll see, and then we'll be like, that doesn't feel right. Let's blow that out. We go again. And now we've arrived to, and this is where Nicolene is really, really such a phenomenal human being. It's all about centralizing it around the guardian of the space. And now we're going into this whole play-based method where there is someone who is the peace weaver. One of our team members has become the peace weaver, and how they embody peace within all of these different spaces. Someone has embodied a different way of ensuring that food is delivered in a way. So we're developing pulley systems that bring food up and down and across the river and so on. And what life has been brought through the team, because we go into this heavy thinking of, oh, okay, time, I need to quantify time, I need to quantify outcomes. But we've gone like, no, let's transform. Let's talk about play. So now we're going through this whole approach of what is it like when the parents come for the very first day and we hold this space of childhood where we are actually playing. We're inviting our families. We're inviting people into our space where there's this whole consciousness feeling of what play is. So at the moment, I can talk about for me, I feel like it's best to talk about how the structure of the day enables that freedom to happen. So we can quantify the times of the day roughly in three parts. But I don't actually want to go into that too much. I want to be able to I want to talk with Nicolene about this, and I want her to send you some things, okay? Send you some things she can quickly put together, because I feel that very strongly. And I don't want to talk about that now because I know you will get much more when she gives that to you.
Okay, amazing. And amazing, I mean, are you going up to high school? Are you, or is it mostly?
This is what's happening. Oh, it's so cool. So what's happening is that we are starting our own. We're starting our own internship program. We have 2 South African youth coming in the next week and a half. How this came about was because Nicolene used to, when she had her own school back in South Africa many moons ago, she taught one of these children when they were maybe 1 year old, 2 years old. And so 20 years later, when we went to South Africa, caught up to the family, I met them for the first time, and we could see that this child had never really fit in. He went to a Waldorf school, and mom had kind of taken him out of school, and there wasn't really a place for him. So we said, he needs to come to us. He needs to come to Bali, and he can stay with us. And then another, not random, but another connection came full loop around from many moons ago as well. And another young South African girl from her father, who was the bursar of a school that Nicolene used to work at, just contacted her and said, this is my daughter, I'm looking for something new. The basis was that they finished high school or didn't go to high school, and they still don't know what to do with their lives. They still don't know how to feel about things because there's not a place to actually experience something new. So they're coming to us for a 3-4 month period where they will stay on site. I've sorted out the visas and everything for them, and they will come and be here, but they're not on a holiday. They're on an internship program. They are on an
Awesome.
internship program. It's experiential by nature. We'll work with SDGs, we'll work with IDGs. They'll be involved in supervision, cooking. They'll be involved in all sorts of elements of the program, all sorts of cross-industry things. We're starting a new project with the hotel they'll be involved with the local community. So they'll be here on experiential learning. Why is this happening? This is happening because Nicoline's eldest son, Kendridge, is 15 years old. He's lost in the learning center. His experience, his level of intelligence is not being met. It's not being met by any of our team, and it cannot continue to be met by his own mother, and it cannot be continued to be met by me because we must do other things. So he will be going in, as a 15-year-old, he will be going into this internship program. This internship program is already structured in a particular way based upon the other internship programs that we've done with Indonesian youth. So there will be MOOCs, there'll be massive online courses, there'll be certified programs. All of these elements will be documented into what is their living portfolio. That portfolio becomes their CV, becomes their resume. It becomes the micro courses which can be used to get into universities. So this is what we are seeing is our middle school program evolving to our high school program.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why the network is so important, because all of a sudden, when you have personal connection with people, these parents are entrusting us with their 19, 20-year-old children, and they're investing. They're saying, I will pay the flights, I will pay the visas, I just want them to experience. I just want them to experience. So that's so
and I mean that resonates with us too, because on some level we wanted to organize internships for our kids. In fact, we wanted to make connections with local businesses so that our kids could actually go and so really regenerate community, but the kids are getting experiences in local businesses, and we haven't got there because I think, and this is where we're still sort of looking at that matric. And yet that matric is not going to work for everyone. So it's really lovely to hear that this, because a lot of parents still sort of are torn between this idea that their kids, well, in South Africa especially, this idea that you need a matric in order to be able to study, in order to be able to even get a job. And it's lovely to hear that they would be, it's not just an internship, that there are micro courses within there, that it becomes this portfolio.
Yes.
That if they did want to go study, they could possibly get accepted into a course.
Yeah, it's still early stages, but we see around the world that these micro courses are enabling young people to enroll into some really wonderful study programs in universities around the world. And that's not going to stop. It's going to continue. So learning will continue to be accessible across regions like that. And if we already know that that's happening in the world, it should not start when you're in high school. It should start earlier, middle school, primary school.
Yeah, I was just in my class this term, because part of the entrepreneurship is that they've got to create brochures and things on Canva for their marketing.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at courses to do through Udemy and Coursera, and then thinking, okay, well, like those who wanted to do, they could do a Canva course, and they could maybe even do a Google Suites course. But then, so I'm also just, and I think that, you could take that so much further. There's so many courses that are around that could serve any interest. I'm just not 100% sure on if the course itself, those kind of courses like the Udemy and Coursera, those type of courses will actually grip a child's interest and hold it. It'll be interesting to see.
This age.
Yeah, this age, and also the cost involved per child, because it would be much better for them all to have their own login, because people finish in different places and it picks up where you left off, and like those conveniences and actually the certificate at the end.
Yeah, there's something about, there's three levels of that before you actually, say, go into a professional field, isn't there? So you have your skills, and then you have your values and you have your attitudes. Now, the knowledge lives everywhere for free. If I want to learn how to use Canva, I can be guided in a particular way. I can learn everything from nothing, for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
can speak from personal experience. Everything that I've done through OpenFlow hasn't cost me anything. Everything I've done in terms of creative development, in terms of understanding Photoshop, Adobe Suite, Google Suite, all of that, it's all there. I just need to understand my limitations and ask the right questions into particular searches, and I will find it for free. So it's also thinking that in terms of a mindset. Do I need a certification for this element of design? Do I need a certification of this? Or can I be in a place and space where I'm allowed to experience play? I'm allowed to experience what it's like when I move this here, I put that color pattern there. And am I able to be immersed with someone who understands what color theory is, or understands, what biomimicry is and how you can apply that into design and art and all of that. And then I become curious about when you apply that into that experiential learning. You can call it projects, or you can call it events and experiences, where, as you heard from us last time, that when we had the night restaurant, everything was about design. It was about aesthetics. It was about the beauty of language. It was about the beauty of presentation. It was about the simplicity of understanding the story of what was behind the ceramic vessel, which was offered to the parents. And when you bought this jewelry piece, it wasn't just a jewelry piece. It had a name, and it had an identity, and there was literacy, and there was language within that.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And none of that cost anything. Maybe an outlay of materials, but then it was a process of experimentation, And then when some of our girls have really gone into that design side of things, okay, I can see that you're committed now. I can see that you're committed, and there's a genuine willingness to understand what aesthetic design is. So let's explore that together. And we're also going to explore it with your parents and say, hey, there's an opportunity to really commit to this 6-week course or this 6-week masterclass. And there's a certification with that, and there's a fee to that. So how can we come to that together? Is it something that we apply for across the board with children? Or do we have the capacity to look individually at the strengths and say, this person is really excelling in this field, and that's an agile part of our finances that can cater for this person? So these are all questions which we kind of hold, because for what fits for one won't fit all. So if we go to traditional thinking, that traditional mindset of, okay, we need to have X amount of this for Google certification or whatever it may be. Well, there's also excess waste in that too. That's not optimizing our finances or optimizing our offerings to the children. So I don't know if you'll ever have a really clear answer from me, but that's kind of it's dependent on the size and scale of your place, obviously. But there's something in that of becoming and having the team become even more curious about how they access information and how they approach their own limitations in terms of learning and being able to upskill themselves.
So because we've got a lot of teenagers, for example, who are, if you ask them what they're interested in, they couldn't tell you. Yeah. They're in that like, meh. Yeah. And so, are there any subjects that you're teaching, or is it, how do you get them to that point where they want to discover for themselves? Like primary school is a bit easier, I would say. They seem to be far more excited, and it's sort of like keeping that going. But now we've got a group of middle schoolers who, they're not, they don't seem curious as curious. I don't know. Yeah.
No, and I think so. I wanted to just add to that. Is like, so with learning disorders and things. So with like dyslexia, dyscalculia, and having experienced a life of their education up until coming into our school has been all about failure because of the dyslexia and the dyscalculia, and then all about actually not learning about things you're interested in, or being perceived as stupid, or being consumed with belonging to a group and looking cool. So perhaps it's better to look disinterested in things, because as you were talking, I started writing down because, we mentioned the last time, I think we spoke about that 20% project that we did with them. And I really struggled to get them to buy into the project. And as you were talking, I started to write down, like, for example, thinking of one child and sitting him down and saying, okay, so, last term I gave you a project where you could come to school and choose what you wanted to do here. I gave you free range. We went through your social media. We found things that you were interested in. And I said to you, you can have this time at school to do whatever it is that you would like to do with these things that you are interested in. And I'm curious to understand what went wrong. Why, when you were given absolute agency to choose, you say, I don't like school. You say school's boring. The teacher says, you tell me what you would like to do. Here it is. Here are your interests. Let's follow this path. And it goes wrong.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Can you help me to understand what went wrong there? Like, is that a starting conversation maybe to have?
Well, can I ask you, how is the feeling about that? Or how is the feeling about that now you share that?
For me, well, I think I want to understand it because I want to get them there. I want to understand what went wrong so that I can know what to do differently.
So I'll ask you the question again.
Yeah.
What is your feeling about that?
Disappointment.
You feel
disappointment.
Can you make that into an I statement?
Yeah, I feel I was so excited about having found it. I thought I had found a way forward, and then disappointment that it didn't work, and frustration on how to make it work.
So how would you say that in fewer words with an I statement?
I feel disappointment. I feel frustrated. I'm just trying to think, like, I feel overwhelmed. Overwhelmed because it's like the one thing that was meant to work. That didn't.
It's almost disillusioned because here was something that we thought, this is it. I mean, yes, there was still maths, and yes, there was still English, and yes, there were other things, but here was a project they could choose, and they chose. They didn't choose.
Chose nothing.
Yeah.
They chose nothing. And so then that leads me to the question. There's restoration that is needed. So what is that restoration? Sorry?
I just want to go back to the big screen. I'm listening. Go.
No, okay. So I'm saying, for me, there's restoration that's needed. Like, something's been broken in these kids, whether that was the dyslexia, the dyscalculia, the school system, parents who are uninvolved. This is really like when I tried to write a little bio for our symbiotic future. It was like the complexity of the problems and the grayness of it. But there's definitely some kind of healing or restoration that's needed to get these children to a place where they see the value in learning something new or expanding on their interests or
where do you think,
or is it
you said there is something. Where is that something?
Inside. It's something inside. It's something inside their hearts. It's something inside their mind
Mm-hmm.
that needs restoring or
Mm-hmm.
finding.
Mm-hmm. What do you
Maybe
think?
it's finding.
What do you think it's looking to find?
I think part of it's themselves, because I think they've lost themselves.
How do I find myself?
Spend time with myself.
What if I can't find myself?
Yeah, what if you can't? Because a teenager is lost. I mean, if you think about the whole brain and where it's at,
I'm not
and
thinking,
there's that whole.
I'm not thinking, I'm feeling. So when I feel, I know.
Okay.
And when I feel lost, that's what I know. And if I
Okay.
feel in and through another, I feel found.
Okay.
And when I feel disappointment, I know disappointment. And when I feel frustration, I know frustration.
Okay.
And when I feel I'm a disappointment, then that's who I become. So we don't need to give up. We need to give in. And when we give in, we allow a real representation of who we are to meet these young people, of who they are trying to understand that they are not. They are not dyscalculia. They are not dyspraxia. They are not ADHD.
Yeah.
They are not. I am Peter. That's my name. And I am Kerry. And I am Tess. And when I am I enable you to be you. And we can talk through all the different nuances and give you all the solutions and give you all of these things, which we gratefully will. But this is actually our work.
Yes.
It is holding that space, and it's holding that space of actually, I want to know myself. I want to feel. I want to transform my frustration. I want to transform my disappointment. I want that for me. I deeply want that for me. And if I deeply want that for me, I will deeply want that for you. And the natural consequence of feeling what that is for me, not thinking, of feeling what that is for me, will enable me to create differently in the outside world. It will enable me to present myself in a different manner to those young people that are so used to being a disappointment, that are so used to being a frustration, that are so used to being all of the things which they inherently know they are not. So I don't know what I want to do, but I don't want to do what you tell me to do. Isn't it interesting? Out of all the options in the world that I have, I don't want to do that. And you're coming from this place of like deep care and love and wanting to open up a different space, but it's received in a way which doesn't actually connect. And then it puts you in a thinking space of, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing? Like, no, well, if I feel into that, I become curious. And when I become curious, I find other ways of doing things. I find other ways of being. And I say, well, actually, I need to allow people to know me more. I need to allow people to know me more. I need to speak how I speak. I need to think how I think. I need to share how I think. I need to share how I feel. And this is the real work that you have to go through in order for the system, these human beings, to be conducive to any form of learning, to any form of greater concepts, metric or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is something which can be incredibly like this, but it can also be incredibly simple when you actually sit together. You know what we did yesterday here at the Learning Center after a week or so being apart? I did some other experiential things, and then we sat down in our shared space together, and I said, we're going to do something very, 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 very different. It's going to be very uncomfortable, and your body's going to react in a particular way, and all of these different things. But do you trust me? And if there's trust, then we hold space. So the educators, Nicolene, took them through just sitting across from each other, knees to knees, and then slowly coming in, and we touched noses with one another. No talking, just this space, and holding this space, much like the Kiwi does in New Zealand and the Maoris do, where we came together and we just held that space. And I was working with one particular team member, and Nicolene was just being the third eye and holding that space. And her observations afterwards, when we talked about it, was so, so phenomenal. So phenomenal. And the things that came up in people, the tears that instantly came, the not wanting to go into that space, and the reflections from them, that was absolutely fascinating. You cannot predict what that is. Two people who never connect experienced what trust is. So this defies words. Through the physiological experience, we can then go into rationalizing what that is for us. Now, I use this as an example of when you work with the body in a particular way, when you work through drama, when you work through areas which aren't directly connected to mathematics or literacy, but when you work with this shedding the persona in a fun, playful way, if you like, or intentional way, you allow a different grounding and a different settling of the human system. And then from that place of harmony, we can then go and learn. We can then go and think, because we have a deep feeling of what that is together, not by myself. We are together. And if there's a group of middle-aged high school children, we're together, and they're not used to being together. They're used to being apart, used to being alone, used to being isolated. So first I have to trust who is in front of me and beside me, which means I have to let boundaries down, which means I have to let things that have been cast upon me, which aren't actually me. But I need someone like you to just hold that space for me and us. And to be able to say, yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, you will laugh. Yes, you may even feel emotional about that. But can we hold that space together for one another? Is that unreasonable to ask? If you feel you cannot, then maybe this space is not yet ready for you. And because this is the age that we're talking about in terms of really wanting to make sense of the world, but really having immense capacity to bring change into the world, and immense capacity to bring destruction and self-destruction in a short amount of time. Through that experiential learning, you can really, really do some wonders. And that can be in its most micro form of how you open up a small lesson together with an experiential activity. You can open that up. And then when you create that rhythm of that, when you breathe into that space and then you breathe out into the activity, and then you close that space off and say, wow, we really started off like this. Let's end. How would you like to end this time together? And then we go off. And then when you come back again, you intentionally hold that space. It's not a one-off solution. It's intentionally holding that rhythmic breathing of how you go into the space together. We're united. Let's go into the content. Let's do our work. Let's come back. And then let's go. And they're very, very subtle things, pedagogical tools, but they're very, very important. I used to teach grade 11, 12 woodwork in the Waldorf school, and they would come in just like completely unique eye beings that are just like tumbling in and grabbing the tools and blah, blah, blah. And I'd say, hey, you don't have to come near me, but let's reconnect before you disconnect. I want to look at you. I want to be like, hey, this is what's happening for me today. I've just come off this. I've just come off that. And I can see the way you came in has triggered me a little bit. So I'm wondering if you can help me co-regulate that. Okay? Because you will see me. I'm a human being too. You can see me differently to the younger children. You will pick up on things. I need you to help me co-regulate. And if we can co-regulate, we will actually help ourselves self-regulate. So it's through the work, as what we're talking about now, through the neural network of all these possibilities, through the Trello list of making sure they happen when, it's through that work which is the transformation. We find those little windows of time where we can transform things and create really, really, really new pathways.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
A lot, I know. It's also very simple if you think about it in terms of 45 minutes with children and how you can open into that and how you can close that and how you can re-enter into that and off you go again. And you hold that rhythm. It becomes a habitual practice because we're also retraining the mind and the emotions and the physiological system to enter into learning in a different way. Same place, just a different feeling.
Yeah.
Do you ever use breathing to just to get everybody into a different state of mind before starting a lesson or in ending it?
When we went through this interesting phase a long time ago where, because it's so hot here, before lunch, what we would do is we would have all the, the cool little flannels with essential oils on there. And we would all the kids would lie down in the jogger and we'd put them on there and be like, oh, it's like. and then eventually what happens is it becomes like, it doesn't become that. It becomes like, it's not as special as it once was because we're wired to be like more new. So then when we looked at that, we said, well, it cannot fabricate, it cannot mimic. A life process cannot be mimicked like that outside of life itself. So life is experienced within life. So how do we find those moments of, okay, I can feel my breathing is really, really like this. Let's do something which is not premeditated and prefabricated, that it's in the flow of things, right? Because this is how, I'm just sharing from our perspective, that once you put a session into this compartmentalized box, then you've already predetermined some sort of outcome with that. But if it's in that flow, and that's what I'm talking about in terms of a rhythmic flow, what your 45 minutes is in terms of teaching and learning, according to the age development of the children, when you have that rhythmic process, it's more aligned with natural patterns of things. So yes, I can feel that my breath is very shallow. I want you to help me co-regulate my breathing. Or I can see that there's a lot of redness over here. There's a lot of high energy. How can we bring that down together? Let's do that together. Do you have any suggestions? What's something that you would like to do? Let's do that. Let's try it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's an invitation, isn't it? It's an invitation into, I'm not the teacher. I'm here as the responsible human being that someone decided many moons ago to label me as a teacher. I'm Kerry. I'm Peter. It's me. Right? So it's fun. That becomes playful, yeah? It becomes like we're in this interplay of life and they have a different relationship to, okay, I don't know what this strange, wonderful, weird person's going to be like today. Let's find out. That's fun. I think that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's reading your class, isn't it? It's reading ourselves. It's going, you know what, actually, I'm feeling very frustrated. I don't know, is anyone else in this class feeling very frustrated?
Yeah. And it's there's this beautiful book that I read many moons ago by a a pediatrician doctor, and she said, the book is titled Meet Me Who I Am.
Wow.
Because you'll meet me in 5 minutes, I won't be the same. And you'll meet me tomorrow, and I won't be the same. And you'll meet me, if you meet me tomorrow, and then you meet me again in a week, don't meet the version of me from tomorrow. Meet the version of me as I am.
Yeah.
So this kind of re-engineering, if you like, of our relationship to our responsibility and our work is something that we breathe into our teachers. We breathe into our team. We need to hold that space of, playing with that. What's it like? Okay, you pretend, Kerry, you pretend to be Tess, and Tess, you pretend to be Kerry. Let's do that. And what would Kerry say here?
I've tried that once. I try that every now and again by stepping into a class. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah,
yeah,
but I mean, as a collective team dynamic with the other teachers, right? When you model that, it becomes like very funny, and you'll just be like, "Hang on a minute, don't go too far." It's not an opportunity for you to like go all the way there. So you hold the parameters of that space, and it becomes fun and play. And we're like, okay, that's cool. Right, let's keep that. Let's keep that when we meet the children. They bring this. That's okay. I'm meeting you as you are. I can see that you're frustrated, but I know that you are not frustration. I know your name's not frustrating. I know your name's frustration. I know your name's not frustrated. I'm just seeing that there's frustration in you, and I'm separating that from you. I'm helping you to co-regulate. I'm helping you through co-regulation so you can see and you can feel from me. I feel intimidated when you're frustrated. I feel nervous when you're frustrated. I feel anxiety when you're frustrated. I feel disconnection when you're frustrated. Right? So when you go through the inverse of what that is, and then you say, wow, I can feel frustrated, but I know it's not you. I know it's the situation. I know it's the feeling of this. So you help them through language, through feeling, through deep feeling, which then drives thinking, which then drives what we say. And this becomes something where they have a model. They have a model of a living, breathing, vulnerable, intelligent human being in front of them, which is very, very different to their last schooling experience, which is very, very different to perhaps their parents. You become someone who is really, really such a special person, which they will look back on in 10 years' time. It's like what I heard today from this parent. 10 years, haven't seen their child for 10 years, of the impression that has left. And as a parent to a parent, with this 55-year-old beautiful mother telling me what it means for her. And it's not, I don't take that as me, I take that as us. We did, because my experience was frustration. My experience was I should not be here. I should not be in this place and position. There's all of that. But it's the presence that I held within that, and I can reflect upon it, and I can see, yeah, okay, I was allowed to be me. I enabled parts of me, and I met parts that the children brought up in me. I met that with curiosity, and I met that with patience and compassion. So that's a really beautiful picture of education, isn't it? It's a really beautiful picture of the importance of having this with our team and our teachers too, because when we hold all that space, that can be quite a lot. But it's important that we feel that first, and when we feel that, and we know it, and we can deliver it in a particular way, we can transmit it in a particular way.
And I think it also has to be done with parents, because I think what I see from the outside as not being a teacher is the staff feeling the pressure of what they think are the parents' expectations of work to be done. It's what if children leave our environment? What if they have to fit in? But at the end of the day, is that relationship with that teacher not the most important thing? That child sought you out, not because you taught her whatever subjects it may have been, but because of that sense of what you left her with. Yeah. And so I don't know how we manage that. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think we don't really know what our parents' expectations are, but we have been having parents saying, what are you covering? Are you covering enough? What if my child leaves the school? Will they be able to do? And I think we almost have, and that's where our communication with parents needs to start becoming clearer.
Yes.
And our path maybe needs to start becoming clearer and saying, we're not going to cover maths as you see it, and it's not going to be, but I don't know. No one's doing that. So, besides the unschoolers, and that's not really, I don't know if that's really our path,
Why did you
But
call
also,
school Akasha?
one thing,
Go, Kerry, please.
just one thing that we also do struggle with our parents, and I mean, I don't know if you have similar problems, but so for example, if we do, most of our communication comes through WhatsApps to them, and we have like symbols of, so like good to know, requires action, so that parents can see, oh, this one I need to respond to, or this one, if I don't choose to read it, it's fine. It's just a good to know. It's not a need to know, and things like that. And then Tess will take such time and to write the most beautiful newsletter, and we'll get one parent who we know has read it out of all of them, and it's so disheartening because we're not sure how to communicate what we're trying to do if they're not going to read or watch or
anything.
But I think one thing we did think of was basically bringing them into the school, get them coming to do things in the school, and maybe that would really be the best way for them to see.
Yeah, I hear you, and I would like to say, congratulations for getting one parent to reply. That's an achievement. It's funny, that's really the truth. It's like, wow, one person replied. We put together these, what I think are phenomenal portfolios. It takes an incredible amount of time, and you get silence. There's silence, and there's this feeling of, wow, you don't see what I see, you don't feel what I feel, because you don't know what I know. And I'm just watching
Frozen.
We back?
Oh yeah, I think you're back.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, you're back. I lost you where you said you just get silence. Also, you put these incredible portfolios together that take so much time, and then you just silence.
Yeah. So what I realized was, well, traditional forms of communication just don't work, because you don't know what people read or if they read it at all, because we are so overwhelmed by information, aren't we? So how we communicate be very, very adaptive and agile. And that's why the social media is very important, because that gives parents an indication of what's happening within that time and space. And as I think I mentioned this initially, was that can happen very, very it's not so complex. It's very simple. But then you can direct parents to, okay, well, here's an indication of things that are happening around Akasha, for example. That's one thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is how you can keep things simply and briefly and succinct. Now, WhatsApp groups for me are always...
I'm sorry, her Wi-Fi dropped, and now it's insisting on it, but she's trying her best to reconnect.
Okay. Well, I've got 9 minutes, so let's go with that. And
I've also got 9 minutes, and then I've got to be back.
Yep. So there's one thing about people just wanting to see and feel what's happening in the place of learning. That also helps you because then it becomes shareable. Now we can never go past the network that we already have within the school and how one person can lead to so many other people, and that can help with enrollments. So that's one thing of why the social media side of things is very important, to have it very simply done. And there's a simple framework that we can share with you and help with that process.
Oh, that
The
would be great.
Yeah, it's very simple. That also assists you with documentation from your teachers, your visual documentation. Okay,
Yes.
so that's really important. So it's really stacking functions, and we're not creating creative waste. It's really optimizing why and what we're doing. So that's one thing that helps parents to, because some parents just want to look at that. They're happy just looking and seeing. That's fine. Now with WhatsApp groups, I've gone way against WhatsApp groups because of this the difficulty of boundaries and people contacting at all sorts of times. And I have
Yes.
yeah,
So ours is set on admins only.
yeah, perfect.
It's only admin.
Yeah, great. That's fantastic. And that's a beautiful direct bit of communication. Um, and then it goes into the deeper things of like, well, what you can say in an email becomes something of, if you what you can say in a feeling when you talk to people about what it is, and then it becomes something about quantifying your own time and saying, well, is it a community gathering? Is the community conducive to that? But if we're still having these questions of, of really defining, if you like, or imagining what it is that we are, who it is that we are, and what it is that we want to do and how we want to communicate, well, we ought to first go through a process of at least deciphering some words and some ways of communicating first. Otherwise, it becomes very, very clear that the never-ending questions will come, which is telling us that we are not yet defined in our identity or integrity. So that's where we can say, well, that's where I say very, very different and communicate very, very differently. And it's not to be from an ego perspective, but that's that. This is this. This is what we do. This is what we do, or this is why we do it. And the how is obviously a little bit more, but why do we do that? Because we're not operating as a traditional school, or because we're leading the way. Like, we have to really embody this type of language. What I think on the website, which I haven't updated in a while, it says something like traditional schooling does not live here.
Yes.
Right. So
Yes.
I've gone through this evolutionary process of stating that, because then it's very clear to people, okay, it's not that. And what
Ye-
lives here is life as it is. So
Yes.
I have the power of the language, and the simplified language is very, very, very powerful for the identity of the place, because that
Yes.
aligns conversations. It aligns people. Well, in my communication of you coming to enroll, that's what we have as almost like an unspoken binding central point that says, well, I understand you're wanting this and this and this, but we're not this. We clearly state
Mm.
that. So then you
Yeah.
knowingly, as a parent, you knowingly go into a space saying, okay, wow, I'm going to have to change my mindset here. I'm going to have to change my belief system in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
So we can go through that process. There's various things we can go through in a short amount of time, and try and just see how that feels. And naturally, it won't feel 100%, but that's perfect. It means that you're going to work it through. And there are definite frameworks you can go through in a short amount of time that's really fun. Also, it's a fun process of going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then when it comes from you and Tess, then it's like it will flow easier to the team, and we get them involved, and then we can bring the parents into the space, or we just start communicating that space more in a particular way.
Okay. That sounds good. Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Because then what that translates into, it translates into a certain type of people that will come with
Mm. Mm.
openness and willingness. It's not like, oh, I'm rebounding off this school and here's now I'm going to go to this one because it's different. It's not just that.
Yes.
I'm consciously
No.
going into it because I can see and I can read, and maybe I'm a little bit confused, but I'm interested, I'm intrigued, right? And
Yes.
then we don't convince people. We don't convince you. I'm not convincing you to come with us. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you what this is. And if you're open to this,
Yes.
if you're open and willing, because there will be challenges. There will be challenges. There'll be things that you'll be challenged on. But let's explore those questions together, because you must understand that Akasha is a different impulse of education. It's not the
Mm.
100-year-old industrial system that you know. So your questions
Mm.
need to be genuine questions. They cannot be defining questions. They need to be open-ended, generative questions. And if we can meet in that space of dialogue, then we can redefine that together. We can reimagine that together, because you're actually here as a parent to help us. You're actually here as a parent to support this movement. And this is when the collective network becomes really, really important, because I know OpenFlow in Bali are doing this. And I know Akasha in South Africa are doing this. We
Doing
speak
this.
very, very openly about these things. And we speak with the founders of these places and we workshop these. And it's emerging in the world. So you're part of something that is very new. It's part of something that's very, very new. So when you bring that away from yourself and just the place, and you connect it with this symbiotic future, I mean, that's just my terminology, but
Yeah.
that we're connected in ideas and moving with this. And then we're connecting parents in that mindset too, that they're not just coming to be served, right? They're not just coming to be, coming to learn together. We're coming to question in a particular way, which is not combative, it's generative. And you have to invite that. We invite you to bring the generative questions. We invite your questioning, but we cannot invite the projection and the statements of what we should be. Let's explore.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, well,
Okay.
there's a lot there. I'm wondering, Tess, do you feel comfortable sharing that mirror mind, or sorry, I forget.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah?
Just bear in mind, it hasn't been fleshed out.
Oh, no, of course. It
But
really
yeah,
helps, because
absolutely.
I
And if you
know
want
that.
to add to it, you're welcome
Yeah.
to add to it too.
I think really, I really feel that if these conversations for me are more about what this feeling is coming to the end of this little bit of time together, because the work can happen very fast. Yeah, work can happen very fast. That's a different type of simple. That's just stuff, which is important, but this is where the essence of things comes into it. This is what you walk away with. This is what I walk away with. This is what a symbiotic future is, of weaving what's happening there, what's happening here, and finding what that space in between is through the dialogue. It's through the logos. It's through the conscious language, which is a new logos of this time. It's a new language. It's very simplified. It's not becoming more complex. We've gone way, way too abstract. We're becoming more simple. I'm not thinking so much. I'm feeling more. How do I feel? And I catch myself saying this. I think I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to do that. Well, do you think you're going to do it? Can you think yourself into doing it? If I just sit here all day, am I going to do anything?
It's like that thing, try lift up your hands. Well, you can't try lift up your hands. You're actually going to either lift up your hands or you're not going to lift up your hands.
Yeah. So there's value in that, even to the point of looking at our common language that we use. Yeah. And because that helps us really articulate that when we meet, when we meet the children and adults and all sorts of different areas too. So thank you so much both for your time. And I hold space for Nicolene being part of these conversations, that she's not here, just as I hold space of the internet connection disruptions test. But all recorded, which will be I really hold that space of looking looking back and looking at these things and saying, that really happened. We really talked about it. Really.
And I mean, I know Nicolene had a whole lot of stuff that she also said, like, oh, some ideas have been sparked. So yeah, I mean, we can use that board to literally, quite fun. It's fun to use.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm grateful for the time, and you both carving time out of your day and week for this, and I wish you a nice time in Mozambique and the Drakens.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks. I'm grateful for your time too.
Yeah. Oh,
yes,
so
thank you very much, Peter,
welcome.
for everything,
Welcome.
for the advice and
Mm-hmm.
help to feel rather than see or decide, or think, as you say, and just giving a different perspective on the frustration or the disappointment,
You make me think, just quickly, you make me think of the word advice. And I think, okay, that makes sense now. We can add a vice for one another.
Okay.
When we add a vice, we can hold on to that for a particular period of time. And then we can also say, you know what? It's a bit too tight. I'm going to find my own way. And that's a really interesting.
Can we add some pros as well as vices? I just have a very quick question that's quite random, but do you prefer Pete or Peter? Talking about names.
I that's so it makes me laugh because it's so funny. The world makes such beautiful sense. The name Peter, it comes from Petra. And Petra, I remember having a book, a names book when my younger brothers were born. It was like, so thick. And it's like, wow, this is so looking at names. And I looked at my name, Petra, and it means rock. And I used to think, like, rock? Okay, I'm a rock. But now I have a whole different interpretation of what that is. But it's been coming up so much, and it's all based upon this space of, I want to honor you as you. Right? So I would like you to call me Pete, please. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. Lovely. That's why I always ask.
Yes. Thank you, Kerry. Okay.
Thank you. Beautiful day.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Evening.
Bye.